We'll go through a little bit of what we do. Normally this is a 3-day course. Okay? We'll do it in a little bit less than an hour. What we'll do here right now is the same thing that we did before lunch. So if anybody's back and you saw it, we're going to wind up doing the same thing again.
It's not part one, part two.
Right. Just the same course over
twice.
Again. Yes, absolutely. I also want to say thank you to Colonel Barnhart, who is chief of our Mission Partner Engagement Office that we're part of at DISA. Wonderful group, very crucial, and we do, part of this is our customer outreach. So this is the 3-day course that we run through as we're traveling around the world. And we talk about DISA, who DISA is, DISA Services, the network, DISA Operations, which is how we operate and assure the network. And then we go into the DISA Services, and there are a few broad categories of DISA Services that we cover. What we call network services, enterprise services, and computing services. We also talk about some cybersecurity services. And then the Get Connected is how our customers, our mission partners, connect to the DISA. And that's a couple different parts. Part is internal for them through the risk management framework and getting authorizations to operate and connect to the network. The other piece of that is the provisioning, actually ordering a circuit or a specific service. Our course information, if you're curious and want to learn more about our course, is at the blue link at the bottom. Typically our course is for CAC holders. We go out again to mission partners, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, other folks, and we do it fairly often. So.
Okay. All right, so one of the goals of this brief is to give you a little flavor of the 3-day course, and we can't really do that without covering the organizational chart. So you've probably seen this already during the week, but we will cover it in slightly different perspective from a mission partner. Why do mission partners care about our organizational chart? So to begin with, the DISA Director is overseeing, Lieutenant General Lynn oversees the DISN and the DISA Services, which is, the DISN is the DISA managed portion of the DODIN, and we're going to really distinguish DISN and DODIN in a slide a little bit later on. But the DODIN is where the Joint Force Headquarters-dod comes in, and they're looking beyond just the confines of the DISN. Okay, and so as commander of jfhq-dodin, he has Title 10 authority to direct the services and agencies, combatant commands that he does not have when he's wearing that hat for DISA. Okay, so he's dual-hatted. Lieutenant General Lynn is dual-hatted as director of DISA and commander of jfhq-dodin. In the center section, we have different entities that are supporting either a particular customer or support the entire DoD with a specific mission. So, for example, on the White House Communications Agency on the right is supporting all White House communications requirements. And on the far left-hand side, we have the DoDIN Readiness and Security Inspections Group, which oversees command cyber readiness inspections. If you've heard of the CCRI, that is the group that oversees those CCRIs. Now, the CCRI is a review of compliance. We've heard them talking about being compliant with all the regulations. That is a DoD responsibility, and that CCRI is evaluating, does this network or information system comply with all the regulations? As they stated as well yesterday, we're trying to turn our focus to operational readiness. So there's a new inspection called the CCORI, the Command Cyber Operational Readiness Inspection. And that CCORI looks at, okay, if there are vulnerabilities in the network that are not repaired, what is the operational impact if those vulnerabilities are exploited? So it gives the commander a very different set of data to evaluate what do we need to do to the network, how do we need to make changes or increase security of the network from that inspection. So that's just a little sampling of the organizations within that fifth estate. That's the group not in a box. A few of the other ones there, Defense Spectrum Organization oversees Spectrum for DoD, very important resource that we have. Procurement Services Directorate, that's where DITCO falls. And so Procurement Services is a big outreach for DISA in support of procurements for DoD. CA is the Component Acquisition Executive. We have Risk Management Executive, which oversees the connection approval. So again, some regulations to ensure that if you are connecting into our wide area network, that you are compliant and you have a baseline level of security. Joint Service Provider is the last one there, and JSP is new business for DISA. That is the desktop support at the Pentagon, where they've consolidated all the help desk, and DISA will be taking that over in October to provide that direct support to all inhabitants at the Pentagon. So then we have left side, right side, and why mission partners care about left side, right side is on the left side. We have, on the left side, the Development and Business Center. This is the interface to our mission partners. So they are the resources that mission partners need to find out information about DISA services, to help maneuver through the different processes. They will assist mission partners in refining their requirements or identifying if there's new service that we need to develop. So that takes place. New services are developed on the left-hand side, and we do that in two different ways. If you go down to the customer contact section there at the bottom of the page, we see CTO, Innovation Systems Engineering and Architecture Office. That office will identify new or innovative technologies that are out there that DISA wants to utilize and implement in the network. So this is where industry is really important. We want industry to come to us with your innovative solutions to support our communications. So DISA will respond and develop new services based on technologies, or through the Requirements Analysis Office. That's where we are identifying from mission partners what their requirements are. If they have particular requirements that we do not have a service that it supports, the RAO is going to analyze, can we develop that new service to support those mission partner requirements. Once those are identified, they would be developed through either Cyber Development Directorate or the Services Development Directorate, one level up. We also have the Joint Interoperability Test Command does testing. We'll talk about them a little bit later on in the brief. And then under Customer Contacts, the Mission Partner Engagement Office, that is the interface for mission partners for assistance and also feedback to DISA. And we have a couple slides on Mission Partner Engagement Office, so we'll jump ahead from there. Finally, Strategic Communications, they manage the web page, the DISA.mil web page, and some of the resources that are available to mission partners. So very important that they are keeping that information up to date on the website. If we jump over to the Operations Center, what happens from DBC, Development and Business Center, they develop a new service, they will toss it over the fence to the right side. So we go from the left side over to the right side, and the right side is where that new service is sustained and operated and secured. So sustainment, operations, and security are the three areas for the Operations Center. So they do a little evolution as well. We're doing 100 gig upgrades in the transporter or the backbone, for example. On the right-hand side, that's something that sounds like development. It's more evolution on that side. But they are supporting the existing services and capabilities and the infrastructure, the DISA infrastructure. All that takes place on the right-hand side. There's also customer contacts out of the Operations Center. We'll start with field commands and field offices. A DISA field command is the DISA entity that knows all of the DISA activity that's going on within that theater. So they're aware of all the network, all the personnel that are supporting mission partners, and so on in that field, in that theater. Field offices, there's two flavors of field office. One supports a specific combatant command, such as DISA Stratcom supports U.S. Stratcom. And the benefit there is DISA Stratcom understands the Stratcom mission, their resources, their constraints, some of the challenges they face. So they are positioned, because they're working with them on a daily basis, to really support that entity, that combatant command, to achieve mission success, at least have all the communications capabilities available to them. There's another type of field office, and that is a regional field office, and that's to support a region. So we see that especially in the Pacific Theater, which is 16 time zones. So there's a field office on each of the land masses in the Pacific Theater, so that all the mission partners on that island have direct DISA support within their own time zone. They don't have to work with multiple time zones. The next area is DISA Command Center, and the DISA Command Center doesn't usually interface with end users. They will work with the network operations centers from the services and agencies. But one of the reasons we have them here is because they really focus in on persistent problems, or especially issues that are elevated up to the director level. They do a weekly director's brief, and any high visibility issue is being tackled on a daily basis. Okay. Also, mission partners can, if they have a certain time frame, they can work with the command center to ensure continuous operations during a certain period. Finally, Global Service Desk is the help desk, essentially, for all DISA services, because these are operational services. If you have an outage or an issue, you would call Global Service Desk, and that's part of the Operations Center. So that's 844-DISA-HLP is the phone number. We've consolidated a number of different service desks into a single phone number to make it easier on mission partners who are able to access the help desk for any service outage. Okay. Go ahead.
All right. So, DISA is a global organization, and this will give you an idea. We support 24/7, 365 ongoing missions all over the world. So, DISA headquarters, Fort Meade, Maryland. Okay, we're there along with the NSA and U.S. Cyber Command. So, really friendly. People are walking down the halls, high-fiving each other. A lot going on. No, it is an interesting place to work. A lot going on. We have our, as Sharon mentioned, operations centers. DISA Global Operations Command is at Scott Air Force Base. We also have centers in PAC, Europe, and the Central Theater. A couple others there. We have what we call the DCCC. It's a help desk out at Scott. Here you see a number of the field offices that Sharon talked about too. Field offices set up around the world, and these field offices work very closely with our mission partners. They know the mission partners very well, and we as a mission partner engagement office and organization partner closely with the field offices. So together, we try to understand our mission partners, what their needs are, bring that back to DISA, also bring information that from DISA to mission partners as well. So you can see those around the world. A couple other organizations that work with part of DISA to work with mission partners. We have the Defense Spectrum Organization, and Spectrum is a very valuable resource. You may not hear much about it, but it is crucial to our warfighting capability. And in many areas, there are conflicts. A lot of people are after various frequencies. The commercial world needs. So we have an organization that, as part of DISA, kind of looks at DoD spectrum overall and helps to advocate for DoD and helps work with other spectrum organizations, particularly the FCC and industry as well. The NIC Network Information Center is in Columbus, Ohio. They do a couple different things. They take care of our IP address space. They also run what's called the G-Root server. It's one of the 13 global root servers that do billions of resolutions for internet IP addresses. So we can take an IP address. Usually we're associating a name, right? You type in Google and it says, okay, where does that IP address space exist? So that's what these root servers do, on a huge level. So the NIC takes care of that. They also manage the .mil address space and some of the others, gov and sdov.gov. And so forth. We have JITC, Joint Interoperability Test Command, at Fort Huachuca. There's also a smaller group out at Fort Meade. Again, one of the groups that does interoperability and certification testing. There are a couple other groups that do that, particularly for the APL, the Approved Products List, that we'll talk about a little bit later in the course. DITCO is DoD IT Contracting Organization. They have offices around the world. They do billions and billions of dollars a year in contracts. Okay? If it has to do with contracts, vendors, leases, chances are DITCO is probably involved there. At the Pentagon, JSP, this is new for us. This is and really neat. Actually doing kind of what you would almost look at as base comms, but for the Pentagon. So there's a group there that's working on a variety of things to support personnel at the Pentagon. We also have the Joint Staff Support Center at the Pentagon and a few other places, supporting not just the Joint Staff, but really almost anybody there that needs something that relates to DISA and what we do. Right. We have a number of data centers. We used to call these DECs, Defense Enterprise Computing Centers. Now we refer to them as data centers, and we actually look at them together as what we call an ecosystem with specific lines of business. And we're doing this to streamline and simplify things so that as we provide our mission partners with services, it's a little bit easier to manage. Mission partners and users have one place to go instead of maybe if your application was hosted here or there, you might have different points of contact. So we streamline that. I'm sure as you'll hear more about the ecosystem as well. So it just gives you an idea. As Sharon said, we've got support around the world. We kind of have the follow the sun so that there's somebody, no matter where you are, if you have questions, requests, issues, there's somebody at DISA that can help and support you. We take a look at who our mission partners are. Of course, we're a combat support agency. So primarily, our military services, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, Coast Guard, we are there and specifically for the warfighter. Whatever he or she needs, we want to be sure that they have, if they're looking at, video from an airborne feed or whatever it happens to be, we get that to them, whatever it is. Voice, video, data, enterprise services, cloud services, you name it. We support the President, Vice President, their staff, Secret Service, many organizations within the federal government. We have offices at all the combatant commands to support each of them, each of their missions. And we also support and work with many different DoD agencies and then other folks, certainly the industry. I know many of you are from industry, and you're critical to what we do in helping us support the warfighter.
All right, so the Development and Business Center on the left has a variety of responsibilities associated with mission partner engagement. They are the customer relationships management group. They receive information from mission partners and also will convey that information out to mission partners in different ways, including strategic communications down there at the bottom of the slide. Innovation and technology insertion. We've heard a lot about innovation in this symposium so far. That is this group, the CTO, Innovation System Engineering and Architecture Group, is really looking at those innovative technologies. Requirements analysis, identifying what mission partners, when they need service or request service, what their actual requirement is. So it's a distillation of, or helping them refine their requirements. That takes place in the Development and Business Center. Joint C2 development, Global Command and Control System, Global Combat Support System, development to support our C2 and leadership requirements. National Background Investigation System, DBC is handling the administrative aspect of that. That's also new business for us, where DISA was identified to help with the acquisition of the new background investigation system. Okay. Enterprise application and system development, again, new service development or dramatic changes or new capabilities associated with an existing service are what takes place here under cyber and services development. Almost everything has to have a mobile element to it, so looking at mobility and how can we implement mobility in the different services that we are now developing or supporting. Cyber security and cyber situational awareness, again, developing, ensuring that the cyber security requirements are met, so joint regional security stacks will fall there. That's our SSA, Single Security Architecture, part of the Joint Information Environment that Andy will talk about in just a few minutes. Joint interoperability testing is under DBC. So this is the JITC, or Joint Interoperability Test Command, Andy just mentioned, out at Fort Huachuca and here at Fort Meade. So this is testing for, they will do both testing and support or deployed and tactical support, mission support, as well as testing for interoperability for new devices or new equipment that mission partners would like to put into the network. So all equipment, before it can go into the DoDin, has to go through interoperability testing to ensure that it is not going to open up security vulnerabilities in the network. And there is an approved products list that lists the different equipment that's been tested, what's been approved, what has not been approved. There's a limit to how long it's approved. It has to go through retesting. You can find out all that information on that APL site. We have that resource towards the end of the brief. And strategic communications, I think I mentioned.
All right, so in DBC, there are a number of portfolios, and again, this is a very large organization, so different groups within DISA help to make a lot of these projects go. A lot of the development, some of the evolution for these comes from DBC. So in the command and control, we have what we call GEECS-J, Global Command and Control, GCSS, and JPES, and these are different systems that they do a lot. I mean, and they're pretty critical for us. A lot has to do with logistics, moving troops and equipment around, making sure things are in the right place at the right time. So that kind of falls, that's one of the things that falls under DBC. DBC also does a good bit of cybersecurity, thinking about the programs we need, developing these programs. The JRSS, part of the Single Security Architecture, which is a big piece of JIE, falls generally under DBC, although other groups help with it. Analytics, cybersecurity, a lot of tools that we use for situational awareness and so forth. Unified capabilities is another big area that we're working on. That email, chat, collaboration, kind of getting voice and video together. The follow-on to that, DIOS, is there as well. Business systems fit in that category too, another area that we focus on than DBC. And then mobility. As Sharon mentioned, a very, very crucial piece. We're looking at how do we get everything that we can do, on a desktop onto a mobile device, and how do we do it without having to have a CAC sled, right? So there are a lot of really smart minds within DISA, and then partnering with industry and the commercial world, figuring out what's the best way to do this so users, commanders can get the video that they need, email, access to NIPRNet and SIPRNet and so forth. So that whole infrastructure, device management and so forth is there as well.
Okay, so mission partners identify that they have a requirement, and it may fit into any one of these services that are being developed or one that's already been thrown over the fence to the right side for sustainment. And they can find out, they can order those services or identify which specific service that will support them through the Mission Partner Engagement Office. So MPEO is the single point of entry for mission partner interests. They are the principal representative for Mission Partner Matters, and they have a lot of responsibility and responsiveness to mission partners. So we have a variety of ways in which mission partners can interact with DISA. I mentioned the website, and the Strategic Communications Office is part of that. New service development is probably, should say, new service demand. DISA, through the MPEO, identifies new service requirements. So mission partners saying, hey, I need this. We think, all right, that might just be one customer that needs that, but then we get that same request from Air Force or from Navy. We see that this is a service that many customers are going to require. So we identify the demand, then it would go over to another office, the Requirements and Analysis Office, which would then identify, is this something that we can afford to do? They have a business case that they look at. It goes up through Mr. Zangardi, the DoD CIO, for new services that are developed, and then it can be developed through the Services Development Directorate. But that whole process begins right here with the Mission Partner Engagement Office, who are identifying what are the new services that we need. When there is a new service that you require, requirements definition is the first step. Service request forms for certain of the services. There's a few different ways that mission partners can order service through DISA. Service request forms is one of those, and the Mission Partner Engagement Office will help mission partners maneuver through those forms. And then once that service is ready for deployment, they will track that service deployment as well. So it increases our efficiency. One last thing I want to mention on the slide is advocate for mission partners. So DISA will receives feedback from mission partners. They're the conduit for that, and they make changes based on mission partner feedback. That's one area. And the other way we advocate for mission partners is that if there is a persistent problem, then someone inside the Mission Partner Engagement Office can be assigned to that issue, to that mission partner, to go to bat for that partner from inside of DISA. So we will advocate to resolve that issue from inside of DISA through this Mission Partner Engagement Office. One other area that I want to mention, because I mentioned the feedback from mission partners, there is a survey that's done once a year, and DISA really evaluates the results from that, and they've made many changes to the way we coordinate and communicate with mission partners based on the results of that survey. And one of those changes is the addition of liaison officers, which are embedded with different agencies and services to support that service or agency. So there's a liaison officer at DLA, that's Logistics Agency, DFAS, Defense, Finance, do we know it?
Accounting Service.
Finance and Accounting Service, thank you. The DoD CIO has one, and also each of the services have them in their PEO office. And the way that we interface through MPEO is through outreach teams. So these outreach teams are actually called engagement executive teams. If you look for them on the website, they're called engagement executives, just like the email or the website address on the bottom. We weren't allowed to call them executives in the title, so that's why that's different. But they have a number of responsibilities: providing information or answering questions, helping mission partners identify their true requirements, resolving any issues that have come up that weren't quickly or immediately resolved, championing, that's the advocating from inside of DISA, and then teamwork helps us to identify what new services do we need to develop for our mission partners. Okay, so if a mission partner encounters a service that they want, MPEO will connect them with that existing service, and that happens on the right side under the Operations Center. So this is where most of our, or almost all of our existing services that are in sustainment are located.
Right, and Operations Center does a lot of sustainment. They also do a lot of evolution. For example, what we call the Infrastructure Directorate is part of the Operations Center now. This came about from a reorganization about a year and a half ago. And that is the global transport, voice, video, and data infrastructure. So typically what we call the DISN, Defense Information Systems Network, and all the equipment, the thousands of circuits that make that go, our global transport network. So sustaining, maintaining, and evolving that falls under that group, the Infrastructure Executive. Then there's a Service Directorate. And as you can imagine, they are taking a look at what services we have, okay, and figuring out how do we best deliver these services, get them to our mission partners, and then, what do we need? How should we evolve those? We also have the group that operates and assures the DISN, and that is what we used to call the Operations Directorate. Now we refer to it as a Cyber Ops Directorate. Okay, and that is the DISA Command Center, and then the field commands and field offices, in a sense, fall under the DISA Command Center. They're making sure that the network is secure, that it's on 24/7, 365. They also work very closely with U.S. Cyber Command through Joint Force Headquarters-dodin in Cybercom's mission to secure, operate, and defend the entire dodin. Okay. So a couple portfolios, just kind of quickly, that Operations Center takes care of. And again, different groups within DISA work on many of these. But Defensive Cyber Services, Defensive Operations, DISA Command Center, then the Operations Center takes care of that. The field commands and field offices that Sharon mentioned as well. The infrastructure, so all of our transport, terrestrial, SATCOM, undersea cable, a lot of working on, as you can imagine, there's an insatiable need for what? What do you think people always want more of? Bandwidth, right? So there are a number of areas where we're working on faster circuits, right? And then the equipment to take that, and the equipment that needs to encrypt that, and can it run as fast as this, that, and the other? So there's a lot going on. Many of our engineers are there. And then we have our enterprise services category and the data centers that go with that. Many of the services are hosted at one or more of the data centers that DISA runs. So our new construct is called the ecosystem, with lines of business, a variety of applications, hosting, servers, different services that we offer. Also the global service desk is there as well.
Okay, so Andy mentioned the infrastructure. This is an infrastructure slide, really, to distinguish DISN from DODIN. So the DISN is DoD's intranet. It is an infrastructure or architecture of circuits, equipment that DISA manages and oversees, and into which the mission partners connect. So that's the demarcation point, is that DISA point of presence where a mission partner network would connect into this wide area network, this DISN. So the combination of the DISN infrastructure and the mission partner networks that connect into the DISN is known as the DODIN. And the DODIN actually includes any device used to transport, process, or store information for DoD. So everything down to your government-issued cell phone is part of the DODIN. Your government-issued unclassified cell phone would not be part of the DISN, it's part of the DODIN. Now, there might be some questions with DMCC because DISA provides that phone, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. So the DODIN includes the military services and networks, and this is where we also see the distinction between DCC, DISA Command Center, and jfhq-dodin. The DISA Command Center is really looking at the DISN and securing the DISN, whereas jfhq-dodin is looking beyond the boundaries, those entry points of the DISN into the DODIN. Now, we call it an intranet because we can be completely disconnected from the internet and still communicate amongst DoD and partners that are connected into the DISN globally. We don't need any of our internet connectivity to be able to do that communications. We do have substantial connections to the internet that are managed also by DISA.
All right, so let's take a look at the actual network for a minute, the DISN. And there's a lot here. This is quite a network. So since we're at the Cybersecurity Symposium, we'll start with cyber here at the bottom. My little, the little green pointer that you had, do you still have that? That was great. Only because green's...
You need that with this slide.
I know. Green's my favorite colors. Maybe green M&Ms. I don't know why. All right, so here we go, our handy pointer. So right here, Joint Regional Security Stacks. How many people are familiar with Joint Regional Security Stacks? Okay. For those of you that haven't heard of those, what we're trying to do is instead of having racks of security equipment in every base post camp station to secure the network, we move those operations and the equipment up to regional centers. So we have a number of regional centers around the world that takes care of a good portion of the security for those. That's a very big initiative with DoD, the military services, and DISA. So we've been working very hard at that. How those connect into the network, making sure that they secure the network, and that we don't slow traffic down. We also have our operations center, our global center at Scott Air Force Base, and then regional centers around the world that are looking at the networks and the services in those specific theaters or areas, working with mission partners if there are issues, trying to make sure that the network is performing the way it should, and if there are incidents, they are often working along with other organizations to mitigate those issues. Here, we also connect to our wireless service providers, right? With our mobile devices, you can take, for example, our unclassified mobile devices and pick your carrier. AT&T, Sprint, T-Mobile, Verizon. So we work with those commercial companies. We have a mobility gateway, in a sense, that allows access to NIPR and SIPR for the classified devices. So that's another connection into the DISA that we manage. Up here at about 11 o'clock are connections to the Internet. And as Sharon mentioned, we have a number of these around the world. DoD is a huge user of Internet bandwidth. I mean, there are... I'm sure it's all mission critical. I'm sure everything's mission related, right? This need for more and more bandwidth is kind of funny. But so we work very hard at managing those connections with our commercial internet service providers. A lot of equipment, as you can imagine, there for management of that and also for security. We want to make sure we keep the bad things out. We also have another type of gateway is what we call our mission partner gateway, where we connect to our mission partners, coalition partners, other countries as well. We have different types of gateways. This is a voice internet service provider where we can get voice through, say, NIPRNet, for example. Okay. We also have very quickly a number of cloud service providers, and that number grows and grows every day. So the cloud service providers have to access the DISA, and our users have to be able to get to that information. So there's mobility gateways there. We have our data centers. Okay, those are now really an integrated part of the network as well. And then one of the most crucial services that we provide is the ability to get voice, video, data, enterprise services, and we could add cloud, and a lot of different others, out to our deployed forces. Okay? So we have what we call the forward extension of the DISA services through satellite. And there's a lot that goes into the satellite piece. There are a number of different gateways here, and we'll talk about this here on the next slide. What we call our ground stations, sometimes we just call them enterprise gateways. We've been working very hard in the last number of years to evolve these gateways as we have new technology, new equipment that works on different frequencies, making sure that, hey, no matter what radio you have, you can go up and connect to whomever you need to, and a lot of places we work, the frequencies could be contested. We might not be able to use different frequencies if we're overseas. There's a lot that goes into this. So we're working very hard on this. We have what we've had for quite some time. You might be familiar with the step and teleport capabilities. Teleport's pretty critical. Many different frequencies, a lot of different bandwidth. So we're working on that, converging some systems, modernizing some systems, working with many different partners in the commercial world as well to get this done. Okay. How many people have heard of JIE? Raise your hand. Okay. So if you haven't, it's coming to a theater near you. It is actually here. All right. So it's been around for a number of years, and this is it's not a program. It is, we think of it as kind of a construct or a framework. And there's an actual definition. I'll give it to you so you've heard it. So the JIE, Joint Information Environment, is a single, secure, reliable information environment. It's comprised of shared IT infrastructure, shared data, enterprise services, and a single security architecture. And the goal here is to improve mission effectiveness, increase security, and realize IT efficiencies. So when we explain this in the course, I try to give a couple quick bullet points about, hey, this is really why we should care as DISA and why you as industry or mission partners should care. A couple different things we're trying to do. We're trying to standardize the security architecture. It's like a building with 1,000 windows and 500 doors. The door on the front is this thick, it's got steel bars, nobody's getting through it. But if you walk around back, there's a screen door that's not really locked, a couple windows open here and there. We're trying to get a hold of, for the entire DoDin, our security posture, take away some threat vectors, close some of those windows and doors. So that's a big piece of this JIE. The Joint Regional Security Stack is a big part of it for DISA and our mission partners. We're trying to also standardize the transport architecture. Better service, less expensive, and with newer equipment and newer technology, there's a lot that we can do. We're moving more towards enterprise services. So instead of every group running their own version of, let's say, email, for example, we have email at an enterprise level available for whoever needs it. Okay? And then data centers, kind of consolidating in data centers. Huge federal initiative. We've been working on that too. So the Joint Information Environment drives a lot of things that happen at DISA, okay? and other organizations, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, and so forth. What we also want to do here is create situational awareness and really enable better situational awareness. Okay? It's one of the things that DISA Operations does, and this DISA Command Center, okay, what they do is they need to see what's going on, understand how that might affect missions that DISA is watching specifically for our mission partners, decide what needs to be done, and direct DISA entities, or if it's not a DISA entity, jfhq-dodin might direct, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, to make sure this all works together.
Okay, so we jump now into services and the services that DISA provides. So you can find any of the over 85 services that we have listed on the DISA website on the DISA website. And you find those through the different categories of services that are boxed out in the yellow border there. So computing services, cybersecurity, enterprise, network, and mission support services are the different categories. And when you drill down to a specific service on the web page, it will tell you what the service offers, some of the features of that service, how to order that service, what service support is available for it, and so on. So, and cost. Sometimes cost is listed, sometimes you have to go somewhere else to find the cost. But that is our great resource for anything service that DISA offers. Also on this page, under the About tab on the very far left, Andy could hit that with his pointer, his pretty green pointer. Under the About tab is Contact Us, and that's where you would find the resources. Those engagement executives will come up in the contact list, and you would send an email to the one that's associated with your organization. So there's engagement executive teams are dedicated to different organizations. Okay, next slide. So our first category of service that we'll look at is the enterprise services category, and these are services that are centrally hosted, managed by DISA in a central location, which is our data centers that are available to any mission partner anywhere in the world. So if you think of Gmail, for example, you can go to Europe and still access your Gmail account. That's the idea behind enterprise services, that DISA is hosting those services and providing them out to mission partners. So we have four categories of these services. Applications, probably the most famous DISA enterprise service is enterprise email, DEE. And so what happened with enterprise email is the Army had their own email servers on their bases that they were managing. Then they contracted this service from DISA, and the email servers are now in the DISA data centers, and DISA manages those email servers for the Army. So Army doesn't have to support the equipment, they don't have to maintain the security or the updates or so on for that equipment. So that is the idea behind an enterprise service. We also have enterprise services within identity and access management to ensure that person and non-person entities are able to securely access the information or any authorized information they're allowed to access. So it's different mechanisms for establishing or validating identity. Mobility, of course, is a very important area. Andy's going to talk about that in just a minute. And then video services, GVS, Global Video Services, which we have both desktop and room-based. And something I learned this morning is the desktop-based GVS is a not extra cost service. Okay, so room-based, there is an extra cost associated with it, but the desktop is available to any mission partner. And our video capabilities go all the way up to TSSCI video conferencing.
All right, so one of the big categories that you heard here yesterday and today, of course, is mobility. We've been working hard on mobility. And I tell you, as they mentioned before, I used to work at Sprint. And when I came over here about 9 years ago, they kept asking about mobility, and I said, it's coming. And then when DISA first announced the phone, I said, it's great. We stopped selling that phone like 2 years ago. What took you guys so long to get this done? So we've gotten much better. You know, the first one's always more difficult. We've gotten much better at the process. So one of the things that we do is we actually give what we call security requirements guides or security requirements now to vendors, okay, with mobile phones and say, hey, as you're building it, think about this. Come to us, we'll check it, and we'll go, you know. And that way we can get the latest and greatest and go with it. So we have unclassified, classified, and right now a TS pilot, which is really neat. These devices are available. The smaller link underneath the title is a mobility portal. We've got that at the very end. It's a resource. It is CAC restricted, but it's a great place to go to find out which devices are approved, and really generally just about the latest and greatest devices are there for Unclass. So Unclass, you pick your device, pick your carrier, phones, tablets, and so forth. We have both different operating systems. It's really neat. We also have a number of applications. We have an application store. I think there are about 300 applications or so last time I looked. Mobile device management, and so forth. For classified, DISA gives a device to the requester, does some management. One of the neat things with classified is that there's no data on the phone, so that if you put that down, once you take out your, once there's no pin or the phone is off, there's no information there. So if something happens and you leave it somewhere, it's not a security disaster. So that's pretty crucial to have that data at rest capability. There's you can get to OWA, DEE on our unclassed device. So pretty crucial. Neat area that we're working on.
Okay, the next area is computing services, and this is where our data centers come into play. We have hosting. Actually, the enterprise service is also hosted at the data centers. But here we have mainframe and server hosting. Mainframe is for really high processing or intensive processing applications that you would like to host. Essentially what happens with hosting is you are contracting out some of your IT services. So it's hosted at the DISA facility. DISA handles the STIG, Security Technical Implementation Guides, those requirements for security. They do updates on the operating system and so on. So some of the basic requirements are handled by DISA in that data center. And there's a little bit different solutions for mainframe and hosting. Cloud is also hosting, but it's a little bit different in that it's a standardized platform that's already been through the STIG process, that technical implementation guide process, and you can order it very quickly. You can get cloud services within a few days. You can order it with a credit card, so there's some acquisition agility there, and you can release those services pretty quickly. So you have if you want to go in and try something out for a few weeks, you can do that and then release that service. So there's a number of benefits. We have cloud table over here at the DISA booth if you want more information on cloud. Satellite we've talked about. There's actually, check out the DISA booth. There's a lot of service support that will be over there. Let's see, I just talked on hosting. Cloud is DISA has two main offerings with cloud. One is MilCloud, which is our on-premises DISA managed cloud in the data center. This handles up to impact level 6, which is classified information. so mission partners can come to MilCloud to host their applications within MilCloud. It's infrastructure as a service only. The other main service that we offer with cloud is called Cloud Services Support. So mission partners are also able to go out to commercial cloud to host, and I've seen commercial clouds up to Impact Level 5. I don't know, I think they're working on some in Impact Level 6, but I'm not aware of any yet that are available commercial cloud up to classified. But if you do go to commercial cloud, you're hosting DoD data within that commercial cloud, and so there are a number of requirements that you have to meet to be able to do that securely. And so Cloud Services Support provides that assistance to mission partners to support their move to commercial cloud as well.
So network services is a very broad category of services that DISA provides. Probably some of the most well-known here in the data section, what you have known as NIPRNet, CIFRNet, and JWICS. We go and change the name, I feel like Prince, right? Formerly known as Symbol, whatever that was. So the reason we did that, though, is because as technology moves on, we are getting away from these stovepipe, what we call circuit switch systems or low-speed TDM, moving towards IP. We've been doing that for quite some time. So as we do that, what was, let's say, your voice that was just hosted on a DSN or DRSN circuit switched voice system, we may send over the NIPRNet or CIFRNet, okay? So that voice service needs to be called something different. What NIPR and CIFR now is known, the network still exists, but the service that runs on those is called SBU IP data, or secret IP data, really transport is what we're doing. TSS SCI would be JWICS. So DISA manages these. DIA, of course, manages who connects to JWICS. A couple other services that are pretty crucial. Content delivery is really neat. We work with commercial partners to distribute access around the world so that people aren't coming back to one spot and you can hit the server closest to you. It's also good from a security standpoint too. Messaging, VPN, virtual private networks, very big category. DISA has rolled out a number of new VPN services lately that do a variety of things. Dedicated transport, private IP, test and evaluation has been around for a while. Voice services, okay, we have unclassified and classified voice services. We're also working hard at voice services to say, hey, if you've got NIPR, maybe look at running your voice over NIPR. Okay, you might not need some of the legacy equipment. You can get rid of that and possibly save some money there. Okay, in the transport arena, we do that as well. And then satellite. Again, I mentioned that's one of the crucial areas that we've been working on a lot. We partner a lot with our commercial vendors. A couple areas that we've been working on here. AISR is probably one of the biggest. EMSS to make sure the sat phones. We use a couple different satellite constellations for these type of things. So pretty critical to get those voice, video, and data services out there. Cyber is another area. Sharon's moving forward here. Here we go. We're flying.
Yeah, 1 minute is a slide.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. So cyber, another critical area. And again, there's some pretty broad categories that we have. Analytics, monitoring, evaluation, some tools that provide, say, a dashboard view of how various networks are working. Incident management. Assessment and inspections, typically that has to do, EMAS has to do with connection approval. It's a workflow tool to help with the connection approval process. DISA will also go out and do inspections. They'll do site visits to help you get ready for inspections if you're a mission partner. There are a number of network defense tools that we use as well, antivirus, anti-spyware. We've been doing a lot of work with, DISA is what we call a Tier 2 cybersecurity service provider. So protect, detect, respond, those responsibilities. Tier 2 CSSPs are required for all the circuits. So pretty critical. There are a number of groups that will do that. Cross-domain solutions we do, and secure configuration guidance are our STIGs and security requirements guides.
Okay, mission support services. These are different categories of service that support our strategic goal to provide leadership and C2 support to our mission partners. So several categories: testing through JITC, the Joint Interoperability Test Command. Joint Communication Simulation System is a modeling tool. If you want to add 100 radios to your tactical network, you can model what impact that will have on your network. That's a free service or a no-fee service available through DISA. A variety of spectrum we've already mentioned, and then our command and control as well. And then contracting, we have a number of initiatives to reduce the cost and to standardize what you get from different vendors. If there are vendors that a lot of mission partners go to, Microsoft, Adobe, these are called EIS, Enterprise, I don't remember what it stands for. And then JLAs, Joint Enterprise Licensing Agreements, which is a single contract that allows multiple mission partners to come to that single contract. So the EIS is for standardizing the requirements through those. So different services. And then finally, our MNIS is part of the command and control services. Multinational information sharing, which is a collection of different services used to support our communications with our coalition partners. So everything from CFBLNet, which is a testing capability that can go across coalition boundaries. CMNT is a VPN that we can communicate directly with specific mission partners. And then UISS-APAN is a website, an unclassified website that's used for disaster recovery or humanitarian missions that allows multiple mission partners to collaborate in a single environment.
So one of the things we try to do in our course is really provide valuable resources. The DISA.mil page is a great place to go for you if you're trying to figure out, a little bit more about the services that DISA offers. Almost all the services that we provide are up here. Okay, these broad categories. So you can drill in, get features, what the service does, where to go for more information, and for people thinking about ordering the service or getting the service, how to order and where to go for help. Okay, this is also our course website too, which is in the training section under news and events.
The Mission Partner Portal is a great resource. It is CAC restricted, so you have to have that common access card to be able to access it, but it stores information about mission partners that have acquired enterprise or computing services. There's also information about all different services that DISA offers. The rates are listed there. Different organizational links will take you. If you're Army, you can go to the Army service that you've ordered and see the SLA, the service level agreement that you've made with DISA. You can see the planning estimates, and also capacity reports are stored on this site. You do have to register to obtain access to those, but that is available to any CAC holder.
IASC, fantastic website, anything cybersecurity related. They just celebrated 20 years in existence. So if you're looking for things like STIGs, links to the APL, computing requirements guide, cloud requirements guides, that's there. Any kind of cyber training is there. Great place to go, iasc.disa.mil.
Okay, DoD Mobility User Corner, also a phenomenal resource for anything mobility. Everything you need to know is there, including the apps, the Dave Store, DoD application vetting environment. If you're a closet developer and you want to have your app developed and approved for use, you can do that. That's through there. One thing about this site is they respond very quickly. There's a blog, there's a ask a question resource as well.
And finally, the DoD APL, Approved Products List, another crucial site for everyone to go to. This is the list of products that have completed cybersecurity and interoperability testing. Okay? It's required for people to go to look. It's got a lot of great information about what's on there, what's in the pipeline, things coming end of life, and how to get, if you don't see your equipment on there, how to get it there. So another great resource.
And that concludes our brief. If you have any questions, we'll be around up front. Thank you all very much, and thank you for what you do for our nation.
Yes.